We're joined on the phone now by Aaron Torres of Fox Sports Radio, the Aaron Torres podcast, a college basketball, college football expert. And Aaron, we just had Onyeka Okongwu on the show, and I want to get to him. Yeah, we have Big O on the show.
Follow that up?
It's going to be difficult. We're going to ask you about him, but first, the Trojans love to live life on the bubble, Aaron. That is just the standard around here. Can you start us with a little bubble picture on where this team sits right now?
Yeah, obviously, look, it goes without saying, I'm sure you guys opened the show. The Rocky Mountain road trip is in Pac-12 circles. It's a really tough road trip. You're playing at altitude. Colorado has its best team that it's maybe had, I don't know, ever maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know enough about Colorado history, but it's been a long time since they've been this good. And you're hoping for the split, and you don't get it. And so now it really does come down to these last three games. I think very luckily for USC, all of a sudden, these opportunities are a little bit better than maybe we thought they would be even 2 or 3 weeks ago with both UCLA, and Arizona State surging. And so the question is, can you win a couple of them? Can you win a couple of games in Vegas? And really, the question that every fan base that asks me about this that's on the bubble, what does everybody else do? That is part of this equation as well. Do the Mississippi States, the Arkansas, the whoever, fill in the blank, there's 50 bubble teams this year. Do those teams take care of business, or do they shoot themselves in the foot? A lot of this is in USC's hands, and a lot of it isn't.
Aaron, first off, how do you have time to be an expert on college football and college basketball, man? That's crazy. I can barely even cover USC, and you're doing both nationwide. Man, how do you do it?
Well, November's a long month. I'm not going to lie. It's just I was at foxsports.com years ago, and I just they told me to do both, and, I didn't get a paycheck if I didn't. And so I have a passion for both sports. As time has gone on, I probably do lean a little bit more college basketball. But it's fun. You guys are in the same boat as me. We get paid to talk about this stuff and do it. And if it means, staying in on a Friday night and watching a game, or, Saturday night I host my radio show, I'm one of the fortunate ones. And I, it's cliche, but it is true. It really doesn't feel like work, although I will also admit that when basketball season ends in April, I do breathe a sigh of relief, and I do enjoy my summer months. It was funny. I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday. Is the one thing I will say, I work very hard from really middle of July, end of July until, April. But those May, June, July weekends I take full advantage of. So make no mistake, I get my fun in. It's just, it's just in a finite amount of time.
All right, we mentioned Onyeka Okongwu. Of course, we asked him the typical question about evaluating his future, and he gave us a pretty typical answer, which is he's not thinking about it right now. He's trying to drown all that noise out. I'm seeing him, Aaron, projected as a top 10 pick in a lot of places, so be very surprised if he's not a one-and-done. What's your NBA evaluation of him? He's a very interesting player, not a guy that shoots a lot of jump shots, not overly tall, but he has been really, really dominant in his 1 year in college basketball.
Yeah, first of all, I've been watching this kid literally since he was a freshman playing with Lonzo Ball. And it's so cool to see his development. And you guys know, being around him, he's a great kid, family kid, hard worker. Yeah, it's just great to see. And so, I think what Onyeka kind of has going for him is, one, he's got all the mental checklist. He plays incredibly hard. He does all the little things well. And the real thing that he has going for him is that the NBA drafts on potential. And, he's far from a finished product, but I think that, just about everybody in this draft is far from a finished product except for maybe Obi Toppin. And so when you look at his size, his strength, his motor, he needs to work on that 18-foot jump shot, because in the NBA right now, everybody is able to shoot from the perimeter. But other than that, he's got all those things. And I know that when teams dig into his past, his personal life, his character, it's going to be nothing but A++ across the board, at least from my experience with him. So I just think, he works really hard. He plays really hard. He's got a lot of great film out on him. And there are rough edges to kind of sand down and fine-tune. But like I said a minute ago, that's everybody in this draft, from James Wiseman and Anthony Edwards on down, through Onyeka and past everybody else.
Do you have a comp for him, somebody that you think of when you watch him play?
Yeah, it's a good question. I hadn't really thought of it, and it's hard because in this day and age, and I think it's really something that a lot of these big guys are struggling with is, it's one of those deals where I don't want to say that his game doesn't translate to the modern level, but I just think that, in 5 years from now, I think he's just going to be a completely different player than he is right now. I'm trying to even think of a comparable example of a guy who was mostly a low post guy that's extended his game, extended his range. You can name a million guys, right? I mean, Kevin Love, when he was playing across town, I don't think he was shooting very many threes,
right.
And now he's that pick and pop 4 guy. So I'm not comparing him to Kevin Love, but I'm just saying it's just so hard just because of the fact that, like I said, for him to succeed in the NBA, and I think he will, I think he has the work ethic to do it, he's just going to have to be a completely different player 3 or 4 years from now than he is right now, and I think he will be.
Aaron, I was interested to get your perspective on the national scale. Obviously, we're here at USC, and we're kind of in this bubble. What's the national perspective of the Pac-12 and the basketball kind of basketball they're playing in the Pac-12?
Yeah, it's funny. I think that the Pac-12 is probably better than people give it credit for, right? I mean, you know how East Coast fans are. I mean, honestly, it's how they are in football and basketball, is that, nothing good happens west of the Mississippi. And, it's not true. I mean, it's funny. I was watching these games this weekend, and I think this is just a great year for West Coast basketball in general, as I'm watching BYU just smoking Gonzaga, and I look at BYU as a team that could go into the tournament as a 6, 7, 8 seed and pull off an upset or two. San Diego State, Gonzaga speak for themselves. And then I think you have 4 or 5 teams that legitimately can do damage in the NCAA tournament from the Pac-12. I don't think they all will, but I think they all can. I would add UCLA. Listen, the one thing you guys asked me about covering college basketball, I don't claim to be a bracketologist. I don't think there's a path for UCLA to get into the NCAA tournament, but I don't know that there's 25 teams in the country. I don't know there's 15 teams in the country playing better than them right now. And so, listen, the bottom line is fans are going to be fans, and they're not going to believe that the Pac-12 is good until, the Pac-12 gets 4 teams in the Sweet 16, and then the argument will be, the tournament is so random, anything can happen, and they got the right matchup. So, I know how fans work because they chirp at me on social media all the time. And, it's the same with Gonzaga and San Diego State. I mean, Gonzaga could win the national championship, and it would be, because they didn't have to play this team or they didn't have to play that team. But I think people that are really paying attention are seeing that Colorado's a really good team, that Oregon, while crazy erratic, they are a good team. Arizona State, like I said, creates some issues. And I think USC, if they can get into this thing, I really do think they can cause some matchup problems for a lot of people.
All right, let me get you out on 2 quick ones. How many teams does the Pac-12 get in?
I think it's 5. I do. And I think USC is the 5th team. Okay. I just, they still have a good win-loss record. I know the computers don't love them. And, what it comes down to for me is I think they have the opportunities in front of them. They've obviously been pretty good at home this year. And now it's just a matter of executing. I also think it helps that there's a lot of teams trending in the wrong direction right now that are on the bubble, and you still got to find 68 to put into this tournament. So I do think the Pac-12 gets 5. I do think that USC may be the 5th team. Maybe it's because I'm in L.A. Maybe it's because I'll be at the game on Thursday, and I want an entertaining game against Arizona. So, so we'll see. But I do think it'll be 5.
Well, that's my second one then. Pac-12 Freshman of the Year. Is it Big O or is it one of those 2 guys from Arizona?
I would go Big O. I really would. One, I mean, he's just been so phenomenal. And listen, it's not a knock on those other guys, but they have been a little bit inconsistent. They came in with a lot of hype. They're playing well, but they've been inconsistent. And I know O missed a couple games with concussion and all that stuff. But, when he's on the court, that he is on the court. And so if I don't have a vote, but if I did, I would go Big O. By the way, I'll say this. I know Washington is at the bottom of the barrel. I give Isaiah Stewart credit. He is playing so hard.
Yep.
He is. I agree 100%, guys. And, that's a guy that, in this era of shutting it down or taking nights off or load management or whatever terms we're using, it would be so easy for that kid to say, my team stinks. I'm going to oh, I got a sore ankle today or I got a sore knee, and he just keeps bringing it every single night.
Yep.
If he does end up going to the pros after this year, I wish him nothing but the best because I think he's been awesome for Washington.
There are some great young big men in this league. You mentioned Isaiah Stewart on Thursday. It sounds like you'll be in the house to see Zeke Naji and Onyeka Okongwu battle at the Galen Center. Thank you, Aaron Torres. Ontario International Airport is one of Southern California's fastest-growing airports. Come experience the SoCal So Easy way with ONT. Go to flyontario.com to see how we connect people and places. Fight on, Trojans, and fly on with Ontario International Airport. Next up, we're going to talk to a guy he's got a little bit of a basketball background, but he is a volleyball man through and through. The Olympic gold medalist Dane Blanton in the house on Trojans Live.